Okay, we're holding an Ayin Ches Amud Aleph on the bottom. There's a Mishnah. The last three lines of Ayin Ches of 78a. Is that correct, Naftali? Okay, we thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day. It's about learning. We should have the base of Migdash immediately. Learning Luli Nishmas, the sounds I've been seeing. The first Yartzeit is this week, and for Shlema, for everyone that needs, for Eretz Yisrael, and for the hostages. Okay. Mishnah says like this: Makas Chaveri, someone that strikes his friend, he hits his friend, Bein be'eben, bein be'egref, whether with his fist, whether with a stone. From Dula Misa, they said, Oivei, this guy is not going to make it. Well, vehekel mimashahaya, and then things lightened up, starts to improve, and they come back. They say, "We have good news for you. He's going to survive." But then he dies. So again, there were two assessments here. Prognosis. First one was not going to make it. Second one was no, we think he's gonna. But then he actually dies. So, did the person that struck him, one that struck him, did he kill him? Is he a murderer? Well, according to the first prognosis, he killed him. According to the second one, he didn't. So the Tanakama holds that he's chayiv. That it was all from the first, the way it was at the beginning, and what lightened up wasn't really real, and he's guilty. Rabbi Nechemia says Pater. Says no, he's exempt. There's room to believe. There's room to say that he didn't die because of the that he got struck. He died because of some infection in the hospital. You know, the people end up in the hospital. They get all types of other stuff. It's not it wasn't the original thing that he came in for. He died from something else. You can't blame it on the original person that struck him. It's Rabbi Nechemia's view. Tana Rabbanan, it was taught in the Brisa, Zudar Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia taught the following: Im Yakum v'salich bachutz. Oh, Mira Chumash. Yeah.
He gets sick about it, something that's not connected.
Right. And that's not the first person. We didn't kill him. Because of him, he ended up in the hospital. That's not murder. That's okay. So over here in Parshas Mishpatim, it says like this. Yeah, if men are fighting, and one man strikes his friend with a stone or with his fist. Now the pasuk says, "V'lo yamas v'nafal lemishka," and he doesn't die; he falls into bed. Let's see how they translate it. Does not die, but is confined to his bed. In parentheses, they add in, then the aggressor is put in jail until it is determined if the victim will survive. It's Rashi. Rashi follows the view of the Rabbanan, Yeah. Rabbi Nechemia is going to say a little different. If he gets up, the pasuk goes on. If he what have they put it over here? If he gets up and walks about outside unaided, then the aggressor is acquitted. He needs only give compensation for the victim's inability to work, and he must pay all his medical fees. Two things, 2 points over here. First of all, he doesn't die; he falls into bed. Then it says, and if he gets up and he walks outside, Nika hamake means that the aggressor is acquitted. Nika means cleansed. He's acquitted. And hamaka over here means the aggressor. Well, Rabbi Nechemia learns it like this in Yaakov V'Salech Bachutz. If he stands up and he walks outside, we're on top of Ayin Chesamid Beis. Al Mishanta on his staff, V'nika hamaka. Over here they say, the Targum says, Al Burye, he walks outside unaided. And healthy, in health. Right. And the person should stay on the floor till he gets his money.
Rescue arrives.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're not allowed to help them work in stores. You're not allowed to help them put a chair for them and let them sit there behind their
Uh-huh. Why? What happens if you help them?
If they fall something, then the store is liable.
What happens if you help them? And you're interfering with the law?
It could cause more damage.
Oh, cause more damage. Okay. So the Gemara asks like this. This is Reb Nechemia Darshman. It says, if he gets up and walks outside, then he's acquitted. Reb Nechemia says, do I really need a pasuk that if someone strikes another person, the guy gets up and walks outside, do I really need a pasuk to tell me that we don't kill the person that hit him? It's not. He didn't die. The guy's walking outside. You need the pasuk to say that. What's coming to tell me is the guy did die, but in the interim he walked outside. Even though he did die, he's still pater. That's the chiddush. It was Amdulam. They assessed the situation. They said that he's going to die, but then we see an improvement, and he starts to walk outside, and then the guy dies. And the Nechemia says, "Well, he's going to be pater. He's going to be pater because he walked outside. That's enough to make him pater, even though he died." Rabbanan. What do the Rabbanan do with this? The Rabbanan say that the person's chayiv. It says, "Hi v'nika maka my darshabe." What do they learn from v'nika maka? If the person walks outside and he doesn't die, so why? Of course, you don't kill the aggressor. So Malamed, this teaches us that they keep him in prison until shenika maka, which means like this: Im yakum v'shalech bachutz. If he walks around outside and he recovers, then v'nika hamaka, then the person can leave the prison. That's what it means according to the Rabbana. Then we let him. Then he's acquitted. He can go free. Otherwise, until then, he was being held in constraint. We were constraining him to see how this would develop. Rabbi Nechemia Chavisha Minale. Where does Rabbi Nechemia know that we have to keep a person in prison until we see how the victim improves, right? Until we see what happens. He doesn't learn from Im Yakum Mesalach V'Nikam Maka. They learned that you have to keep him in prison. So where does he know that halacha that you have to hold the person to see what happens? Yalafim Makoshish. He learns from the person in the desert that collected the wood on Shabbos that it says they put him in confinement until they was told by Hashem what to do with him. He has his own source. He doesn't need this pasuk to tell me that source. But Rabbanan Nami why don't the Rabbanan learn this halacha from Makoshish? And the person that collected wood, it says over there that they kept him in confinement until Hashem said what to do. Makoshish, the Gemara answers according to the Rabbanan, they don't learn from there because Makoshish bar katalahu. The Makoshish, the person that was collecting wood, we know he's dying. We know he gets killed. He didn't know which death penalty he was supposed to get. So that's a different story. Over here, Fuke hide layadini barkatalahu. Over here, we don't know if the person's going to get the death penalty or not because we don't know if the victim is going to survive. If the victim survives, there's no death penalty. So from the Makoshish, we can't learn that you put the aggressor, you put the one that's the perpetrator, that you put him into confinement. Over there, the perpetrator was getting the death penalty. Over here, we don't have that. Maybe he's going to get. We don't know.
It would be better if they didn't know. there's a death penalty. If they didn't know what.
Yeah, by the Makoshish, where we knew there was a death penalty, we put him into confinement. Doesn't tell me that over here, where maybe he's innocent, he's going to be put into confinement. You know, so we don't just say, just lock him up just in case, right? That's what they do in America. They just lock him up just in case. Could be he's guilty. Why not? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Well, Reb Nechemia, what does Reb Nechemia do? How does he learn from Makoshish? If the case of Makoshish is so different, over there's a definite death penalty, just don't know which one. And over here, there isn't a definite death penalty. He says, Yalach min Megadef. We learn from the Megadef. Megadef was also locked up, the person that cursed Hashem. In the desert, you remember, from the tribe of Dan, and he wasn't in the camp, he was outside the drain. His mother was from this, and his father was the Egyptian. Well, yeah, they didn't know what to do with him over there. They didn't know that he was going to get the death penalty. They had to ask Hashem what to do. See, over there, it was also in doubt, and they locked him up. They put him in confinement. Rabbanan, why don't the Rabbanan use that as a source? Megadef Megadef was a case of Irasha, was a one-time event. You can't learn from that. You can't learn from that you have to do that to every time you don't know that you're going to lock a person up. Special scenario. Kidatanya was taught in a Brisa Yidehaya Moshe Rabbeinu Shamakesh B'Misa. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that the person that was gathering wood in the desert gets the death penalty. It says in the Torah, someone that violates the Shabbos is put to death. But we just didn't know which death penalty to give him. It says because it wasn't specified. But by the Megadef, it wasn't said. They had to wait for the whole explanation from Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know if he's getting the death penalty at all. Okay, so we see that there's a distinction here between the Makoshish and the Megadef. Makoshish had a death penalty, we just didn't know which one. The Megadef didn't have a death penalty yet, and he gets locked up. And that would be a source, if we want to learn from the Megadef, that you lock a person up even when you don't know if he has a death penalty until you see what happens. Now the Gemara takes on a discussion in the language of the text about this fight between these two people when one of them ends up dying. When someone is during the trial of Naphtali, during the trial, do they keep the people locked up? I don't know. I'm not sure. Probably something similar to that. I'm sure they have to keep them. They don't want them running away.
The short answer is it depends. It's in the discretion of a judge.
Right.
The more serious the crime, the more likely it is that someone's going to run away. So the tougher they are.
I'm talking secular. I'm talking in the Torah.
In the Torah. Saying in the
city.
Torah, Hill is asking from the Torah, the city of. They're not sure if he's going to go to the city of refuge. And I think the whole case would take one day, right? So it wasn't like one of these, yeah. And no, the case took one day, but they couldn't paskin that day. They would have to wait overnight, and then they would paskin the next day, right?
I think I've read that there is a process of locking up to protect him from the Goel Hadam.
Oh, maybe to protect him from the Goel Hadam. That's interesting. From the next of kin.
Not sure what.
Right. But that's not a source for us because we don't have that in the text. If you look at these verses here, it says twice. It says like this. It says first. It says, and he does not die, but is confined to bed. That means that there was a first assessment of what's happening with him. He does not die, he's confined to bed. Then gives a second assessment. It says if he gets up and walks about outside unaided, then the aggressor is acquitted. So we have two verses here that are basically telling me the same thing. He does not die, he gets up and walks outside. So according to Rabbi Nechemia, we understand why it says twice. Two assessments. One is when they assess that he's going to die, but he doesn't die. That's when it says v'lo yamas. And he doesn't, they thought he was going to die, but v'lo yamas, and he didn't die. Okay, he doesn't die, then he's going to be acquitted. We didn't say that yet, but that's the assessment was that he was going to die and he didn't die. The other cases, Amdullah Misa, they assessed that he's going to die. The Hekel Mimashaya, and then it got lighter from what the assessment was. We see that he's recovering, and sure enough, he dies. And what does Reb Nechemia hold? That both of those cases he's acquitted. That's why it has two. One is when he survived, he's acquitted. One is when the person dies, he's acquitted, because he in the interim, his condition lightened up. You can't blame it on the original striking. But according to the Rabbanan, let's say that if it lightens up and he dies, the person is still put to death. So why does the Torah have to tell me two umdanas? Mari answers two assessments. One is the obvious. If they assessed him for death, but he didn't die, halacha is we don't put the person to death. Right? We wouldn't kill the aggressor unless the person actually died. You'd have to wait to see. If he doesn't die, then we don't put him to death. The other one is the opposite. They assess that he's going to live, and the person ends up dying. As the prognosis was good at the beginning, that everything's going to be fine. And then it turns out that he died. They say maybe we should say we didn't notice the internal bleeding, and the this and the that, and maybe okay, we should kill him, kill the aggressor. He died. Torah says no. Abdullah Chaim, it's already v'yitzila wa'ida. You have to save him. You have to save the person. If you have reason to believe that the person is innocent, and here there's a chance that the person is innocent. How did he die? Well, people die. It happens. People die. They don't. Not everyone that dies is because they were in a fight. Died because he didn't like the court case. Right. Okay. So that's what we did right now is we answered the question on the Rabbanan. Why do we need two assessments here? What is one of them is that he was assessed to death, but he survived. We don't kill him. The other one, he was assessed to live, and he did die. We don't kill him. Okay, two assessments. Reb Nechemia says, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that. If they assessed him that he's going to live, and then he dies, I don't need a pasuk. I don't need another pasuk to tell me that the person is acquitted. That I know from the psukim that talk about the bezdin. There it says vitzilueda or whatever it says. Tzadik al tarek, the pasuk later on in the bar. You don't kill the innocent. Okay. Tanaraban, what's wrong? 78b. Tanaraban started in a brisa. Huh?
He's my page caller. Even if I know it.
I was like,
Tanaraban hamakas chaveirei. Someone strikes his friend, and the doctors came in and they said he's going to die, but the person survived. So Paicher and I say we let the acquit the aggressor. Let's say the doctor said he's going to die, but then the situation lightened up and they thought he's going to survive. So now they have to do a new assessment to see what are the damages here. Originally, they didn't take that into account. Now they have to take into account a lot of other financial, assessments. Let's say afterwards he dies. So Nechemia says, well, we still follow the second assessment. We call it the middle assessment. Second assessment that says that it wasn't because of the first, it wasn't because of the striking that he died. That we thought he was going to survive. How did he die? He died for whatever reason he died. The Chachamim say no. That first assessment is always the main assessment. After that, all those other assessments don't really count.
That he would not be responsible for to pay any of those things.
It wasn't it's Chayav Misa because of the first assessment. How does it work with insurance companies? They just come in once and they take their assessment and
try to pay the least.
Right. What happens in court? So is that it's considered murder if the person walks around and dies later from his wounds?
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be if it just takes a long time to die and you can draw a direct line. But we have to remember that just because in this phraseology, Pater means that Beis Din doesn't execute him. It doesn't mean that he walks away with a smile.
Right.
I mean, he's still in all likelihood going to drop down to Kares and be flogged. And he's still paying the civil damages here for what he did wrong.
Right. Right. Okay. So that's our first machlokes is Reb Nechemia and the Chachamim, which we mentioned before, is if the person recovers a little bit but then dies, Reb Nechemia says that he's exempt, is exonerated, and the Chacham say that he's guilty. Tani Yidach, there's another brisa. Amdula Misa. They made a prognosis that the person's going to die. They can still make a prognosis that he's going to live. Right? You can still do another assessment. L'chaim. Once they make an assessment that he's going to survive.
It's like the guy who goes in the doctor's office and the doctor tells him he has cancer, has 30 days to live. And then he goes out to pay and the bill is like $5,000. Comes back, the doctor says, how can I possibly pay this within 30 days? Go in that case, you have 6 months. Stupid joke. Do not repeat.
Dr. Stein doesn't want me to repeat it. Okay. L'chaim, if he's assessed for life, they don't assess him for another assessment. He's already been acquitted. Let's say they assessed him for death, and then things lighten up. They say things are going good. And they do a second assessment to see if he's going to owe money, how much money he owes. Let's say afterwards he dies. You have to pay the money to the inheritors because of the second assessment. You say that he didn't die because of the striking. He died for whatever reason. And the striking owes money. When does he pay? Okay, now Mishosheiko means I don't say, even though I did a second assessment later on, but I have to go back to look at what he was valued before the striking to where he's holding now. Before the striking to after the striking. I don't do the assessment of where he's holding now as he's walking around on his cane because he was struck. I'd have to go back to that. Mishashiko. The stomach Rav Nechemia. And this is a Stam Brisa. It's following Rav Nechemia. It's probably Stam Tosefta. Stam Tosefta is Rabbi Nechemia. That's we have a rule. Stomach Rav Nechemia. Remember, we had the different students of Rabbi Akiva. Which one is what? Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir, Stam Sifra is Rabbi Yehuda, Stam Sifri is Reb Shimon, and Stam Tosefta is Rabbi Nechemia. This is a Tosefta, it follows Rabbi Nechemia. Okay, it's a new Mishnah. In the Skavan Largas Behema Vargas Adam. This was he was going hunting for buffalo, and instead of killing the buffalo, he shot the Indian. No, it can't be has to be a Jewish person. Be a Jewish person.
Those things have happened.
Yeah, already in the first chapters of the Torah, there's already he thought there was an animal. He ended up killing Lemech, Kayin, or whatever. Right. Right. Remember, Lemech ends up killing Kayin because Tuval Kayin pulls the arrow back and saw something moving. Okay. Now, the Mishnah is going to discuss: is there a death penalty on this? And of course, there had to be a hasra. There had to be a warning. Had to be a death penalty. But what it's talking about is where the person gets warned. He says, "Look, you're about to shoot at that buffalo, but there's people next to it. You may end up hitting them." He says, "I don't care." Now, so it's hasra suffix. It's a doubtful warning. He did it because he says, "I don't care. I'm gonna be fine." He didn't think he was going to hit them. And that wasn't his intention, but there was a warning here. He just didn't think that it was going to. He thought he was going to be able to make it on the target.
In modern American like when you shoot a gun, any innocent bystander, you shot that gun, you was killed. You have to make sure. Even if it goes through the wall, you kill somebody on the other side. It's not done. Yeah. There was a watch store in Los Angeles. I used to, years ago, I do with Tzayim. There was a security guard there. So the guys told me one time the security guard was in the bathroom, just playing with the gun, and it went off and it shot through like the walls, like all the walls in the place. But they said no one got hurt. But yeah. So okay. If he intended to kill a non-Jew, but he killed a Jew. L'nefalim, B'hargas ben Kayama. He thought he was killing what's it called? Yeah. But Nefal would be a stillborn. Stillborn. And he ended up killing. It wasn't a stillborn. It was a live fetus. Then Pater, he's exempt. He didn't. His intention over here was not to kill someone that would make him chayav. He did not intend to kill him. He was hitting him on his side, on his waist. Masnav is his loins. Masnav. How do they translate that? Loins. But it ended up hitting him in the heart. In the heart, that's a different story. And he died. He's pater. Now this happens all the time in fights. But this one, people they hit each other, they push them to this and that. They didn't realize, that wasn't their intention. They were just fighting. They didn't want to kill. They hit him here, and then all of a sudden the guy collapses. Let's say he intended to kill, but it didn't hit him in the where he wanted it to. It hit him on his loins. Over there, that wasn't assessed that would cause death. However, but he died from it.
He's pater also. Even though you see the first part of the Mishnah was telling me that you have to have the right intention. You have to have the wrong intention. You have to have the intention to kill to be chayiv. And here he does have the intention to kill. The second part of the Mishnah tells me you need a second aspect as well. It has to be the type of striking that could kill. You need to have the intention to kill, plus that type of striking it would naturally cause death. Now, if over here naturally would not cause death, it happened to be that it did, but so he's going to be exempt as well, even though his intention was to kill anyway. He intended to kill, he intended to strike an adult. Now, this type of blow would not kill an adult, but he ended up hitting a child, and it ends up killing the child. So he's going to be exempt. Now we have that opposite case. He intended to kill the child, which it would kill the child, but it didn't hit the child, it hit an adult. And for an adult, that would normally not cause death. But it happened to be the person died. It's going to be pater. It wasn't the strike here, even though intention was to kill, but it wasn't the type of striking that would kill. Let's say he intended to kill. He was going to shoot him in the loins, but that was somehow was going to kill him. And it didn't actually hit him in the loins, which it could have killed him over there. It ended up hitting him in the heart. And it killed him there, which that, of course, could kill him. So he's going to be chayiv.
But in the first case, he had the intention, and the blow was sufficient for a child. It just happened that it hit an adult.
So as an adult, it wasn't enough to kill.
But he wasn't trying to hit the adult. He was trying to hit the child.
And so the one that he struck actually wasn't considered a blow that could kill. But in that situation, look at that situation, it wasn't a blow that could kill. Just like in other cases, if you hit him on there and it wasn't able to kill him there on the loins, but it ended up hitting him in the heart, he's going to be pater also. Because, well, over there, that wasn't the intention, the opposite. Yeah. But the intention to hit him in the heart, intention to kill, and he hit him on the loins, where that type of blow would not kill him, he's going to be exempt.
This one is a bit more tricky because it's like the person changes, but his intention was there and the blow was a
blow, but not for that person. It has to be the blow for that person. Yeah. If he intends to kill an adult, and it could have killed an adult, but it didn't kill the adult, it ended up killing a child, it's going to be chayiv. Here he has the intention and the type of strike that would kill. Shimon says that he's that's the opinion that we're more familiar with. Reb Shimon holds that you have to have intention to kill this person to be chayiv. If you end up killing someone else, you're going to be exempt. So Reb Shimon argues on this Mishnah. The Tanakama holds that if you didn't have the intention for this person, you're going to be chayiv. Reb Shimon says pater. Reb Shimon is the lenient opinion here.
In American law, there's a neat phrase to describe this, which is transferred intent. Intended to do it to A, but you did it to B, and the prosecutor wants to charge you with murder and not manslaughter. So he uses the doctrine of transferred intent.
Interesting. That would be the opinion of the Rabbanan.
Right.
Follow that? Reb Shimon, hey, what's Reb Shimon referring to when he says, where's he going on? If you say it's just a continuation of the last case where he intended to kill an adult, but he ended up killing a child, it says chayiv. Reb Shimon pater mi baile. It shouldn't say Reb Shimon aimer afilu neskaven lahargazev hargazev pater. What do we need the whole introduction for? They say chayiv. Reb Shimon pater. Reb Shimon, you don't need the whole introduction. It's exactly the case that we're referring to. Reb Shimon says pater. Ella aresha must mean, it must be not talking about the case, the final case. It must be talking about an earlier case. What was the earlier case? The Mishnah started out that if he intended to kill an animal, but he ended up killing a man. He intended to kill a non-Jew, he ended up killing a Jew. Stillborn, but he ended up killing a viable child. All of those is his pater. Now, what we can do from those cases is we can imply, but if he intended to kill one Jew, but instead he ended up killing another Jew, you can imply from all those cases that really you'd be chayiv. The Mishnah doesn't have to tell me everything that it wants to say. It's sufficient to say what it's saying and then to imply the other halacha. What's the other halacha? That you'd be chayiv if you intended for this Jew and killed another Jew. And Reb Shimon Aimer, Reb Shimon says on that, afilu niskav and pater. In other words, Reb Shimon is continuing what the Tanakama implied by the first case. Pshita, the Gemara now explains, Koi Ruvain v'Shimon v'Amar anal Ruvain kamachavna, l'Shimon like kamachavna. If Reuven and Shimon are standing, he says, I'm aiming at Reuven, I'm not aiming at Shimon. But he ends up killing Shimon. That's the machlekes Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan. Is exactly the case. Okay. Whenever the Gemara says Pshita, we know that there's something that's coming up that's going to be a question. This is obvious. However, the following is we're not sure about. Amar lachad minayu. Let's say they tell him, you're going to kill one of them. You're going to kill. He says, yeah, I don't care which one. I'm killing one of these guys. Is that good enough if he doesn't specify who he wants to kill? Killing one of them.
Does Rav Shimon have a shita by Sota when we make her swear that she didn't have relations with this man or any other man? Does he have a comment there?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Because
That's
it's
part of it.
We do that, but he's asking if the person that says that is Reb Shimon. Okay. Now the Gemara is interesting. He says he wanted to kill the person on the right, which his name is Reuven. It turns out that he killed the person on the right, but it wasn't Reuven, it was Shimon. So he knew the body that he wanted to hit, but he didn't know the name of the person. That wasn't correct. What do you say? He's innocent?
No.
He's
He's
guilty?
still guilty.
Guilty. To know exactly the guy's name? And I want to think of the guy with the red beard, Shimon. Okay. What's going to be the halacha? Tashema, so come and listen. The Tanya. So on the Bryce of Shimon Aimer, actually, Shimon says, no, you have to know actually the person and the name, know exactly the person that he's killing. Doesn't, he's going to be exempt. If these questions were according to Reb Shimon, according to the Chachamim, Yechayev anyway. Okay. My time with the Reb Shimon, what's the reason for Reb Shimon? Amar Kra, it says in the pasuk, Va'arav Lai v'kamalav. Arav Lai is like he waits in ambush and he attacks him. Actually, it has to be done with intent. Rabbanan, what do the Rabbanan do with that pasuk? I mean, the Rabbi Yanai, they learn like what it says in the house of Rabbi Yanai, in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yanai. Prat l'zarik even l'gav. This is coming to exclude when there's no intent because you threw a stone inside. Someone throws a stone inside a theater. A mixed group. So over there he's going to be exempt. Now, the Gemara says, Hey Chidami, what's the case? You say majority of people in that theater were there are 9 non-Jews and there was 1 Jew in there. And he ends up killing the Jew. So he's exempt. I don't need this pasuk. I could just say that obviously he didn't have intent because that wasn't the majority. Inami, maybe palga. You could say that it was 50-50. But I know he's exempt anyway. I don't need the pasuk. Because if it's 50-50, we would say that you have to save the person, right? We're not just strict on capital punishment. You're always lenient. You always say that maybe there was a right. If it's a doubt, then you say that he's exempt. Loi, the Gemara explains that tzricha, the case of Rabbi Yanai, is necessary. V'katisha Yisrael v'kuti echad b'neihem. There were 9 Jews and there was 1 non-Jew. And over here, he's going to be exempt. What's the explanation for that? Why should he be exempt? We should follow the majority. Explanation is davale kuti kavua. Because when do you follow the majority? Only when things have left the majority. But when things are still in their original place, remember with the 9 stores, if you found the meat outside the stores, then you say that it came from the majority. But if you went into a store and you bought from one of those stores, you just can't remember which store it was, then you say everyone is 50-50. So over here also, because we're going to view this person that's there, this Jew that's there, as each person there is 50-50. Because it's kavua, because he's stationary. It's not that he left from the majority. And that's what we learned from that pasuk of Arav. We can understand it's good according to Rabban that if someone intends for one person, then he kills the other person, he's chayiv. There's 2 people are fighting, and one of them hits a pregnant woman. And over there it says that if the woman doesn't die, then you have to pay for the fetus. The woman does die, the pasuk says, "V'nasat nefesh tachas nefesh." You have to give a soul for a soul. Well, we're talking about, it's not mitzvahs, it's matzahs. It's not matzahs as in Pesach matzahs. Matzahs means as a quarrel. It's a quarrel of death. They were fighting. That's what the pasuk. It says if there is an accident, that means if the woman does die, you have to give a life for a life. According to Reb Shimon, no, he wasn't intending to hit the woman. He was intending to hit the other guy. The woman stepped in. So how could he get the death penalty if he didn't intend?
That was the case.
Right. How could he get the death penalty? What does he do with it? The Gemara answers, Mamain. He holds that a life for a life over there means money, not the death penalty. Look at the Rebbe, like Rebbe taught. The Tanya Rebbe, it was a brisa. Rebbe says, "V'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh." You pay a life for a life. Mammon doesn't mean actually that he loses his life. It means that he has to pay the person's value. Maybe it means death penalty. It says v'nasata. One place it says v'nasan b'flilim, that he'll pay by the judges, and one says that you pay v'nasata nefesh, that you give a life for a life. Both of you have an expression of nasata, of giving. So in Malahalan Mammon, just like when it comes to the fetus, pays with the judges. So Afghan Mammon also over here, when it's a life for a life, he also only pays money, which means the value of the person probably as a slave. Amar Rava. Rava says, that's something else. Yeah, that's by the ox. By Koifer. The question, whose life? It says if an ox scores and kills the person, if it's a sharamud, he has to pay the person's value. Now, which value? The victim or the perpetrator? It depends how you want to view it. It's an atonement or like restitution type of thing. That's machlekes, correct. Over here, it doesn't say that pay the person's value, the victim's, the perpetrator's value. Here, you would have to pay what the person was worth to the family. Here, it's the person is killing, not his ox is killing. Okay, now there's a Tanit Bechizkiah, which is not like Rabbi that says that there's money, and it's not like the Rabbanan that says that there's a death penalty. The Tanit Bechizkiah, it was taught in the house of Chizkiah, Maka Adam Maka Behema. This is a pasuk later on in Vayikra. We were dealing with psukim and mishpatim. Later on, there's this pasuk that says, Ma Maka Behema Lechalak the Ben Shagil Mes. Just like if someone strikes an animal, we don't make a difference if it was intentional or unintentional. He always has to pay. If a person strikes an animal, the person is always guilty, even if he said, I didn't mean to do that. But he has to pay. It doesn't matter if he was taking it up or taking it down. That's a borrowed thing when it has to do with gullus, going up, exile. It depends if it's an upward motion or down. He always has to pay money. So af maka adam, the same applies. If a person is striking another person, we don't make any distinction. If he strikes another person, he's always going to be exempt from paying money. Why? Because come b'deramine. Talking about if he killed. Whether he gets the capital punishment or he doesn't get the capital punishment, we're going to say that that's a capital punishment case. And it's according to the Tanit Bechizkia, capital punishment case exempts him from payment. My Shane Miskaven, what did he mean when he said he didn't intend? If you say I had no intention at all, that's the same as unintentional. Rather, we're talking about that he didn't intend for this one, but he intended for that one. And that was a machlekes Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan. Now we're saying that Tanit Bechizkia says it a little different. It says that we don't say that he doesn't have to pay money. He's exempt from paying money. If he would actually have to get if he would get the capital punishment, then of course he doesn't have to pay money. We always say kamle b'deramini, he always gets the more severe punishment, and we drop the lesser punishment. Rather, Tanit Bechizkia holds is that even though he's not getting the capital punishment, he still is exempt from the monetary punishment because it's a capital punishment case. Let's leave it over here. Okay. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.